And now, Film Sprint presents Amateur Hour. This week, actress and singer Ellie Araiza relives her 2006 one-woman show, Turtle Love. And I, your host, will be here to watch along and ask your questions. Time to get unprofessional. It's Amateur Hour. Hi, everybody. I'm Jeremy Wessler. Welcome to Amateur Hour. This is a show all about celebrating our early work in retrospect. Before we can get to the festivities, we want to send some love to the movement. Go to mutualaidhub.org and find out how you can support mutual aid in your area. A good way to be a part of the cause. All right, everybody. Tonight, my guest is Ellie Araiza, an actress and singer currently living in Studio City. The project we're reviewing is Turtle Love, her one-woman show, which ran at IO West in LA in 2006 and 2007. Welcome, Ellie.
Yeah, they can hear me. Yay!
We did it! Let's go!
The good news is, guys, I haven't said anything important yet. Literally, the only important thing I said was this. So
there you go.
There you go.
That's it. That was the. We got it. That
We're
only took a little too long, but we got there. That's all that matters. All right. Well, welcome, Ellie. We're talking about your film, Turtle Love. Well, it was a one act play. It's a film we're gonna watch of the play, one woman show. I just got to tell you, I put out a call for submissions for this. You're the first person I brought on in this new format, and a big part of the reason is that I really just admire the chutzpah, the panache, to put on a one-person show about your life. How old were you at the time?
I was 22 years old.
22. I was very impressed at the notion that I just was like, that's just so ballsy. Like, I think when I was 22, I didn't have the confidence to put on here's my life story and my perspective on things.
I don't know if I had the confidence either, but I certainly had I don't know what you would call it, blind faith or something. The thing that you only have in your 20s, and then you kind of say goodbye to it once you're into your 30s. There's something beautiful about that kind of innocence.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
So how did it come to be? Like, how did you come to write it? What was the sort of impetus behind the project?
Yeah, well, it's funny because I was taking, improv classes at IO West, and one of my good friends was also there taking them with me, and she performed a one-woman show there. And when I saw her do it, it just made me feel like, oh, I can do that. And I suddenly felt like I had something to say, and I wanted to say it. So she and I actually got together. She wanted to do a second show, and we started writing and helping each other basically about once a week, reading out loud for each other and just really facilitating each other to write the show. And to be honest, I was thinking about it when I did it. I don't think I'd ever even seen a one-woman show. So I really had no idea what I was doing. I think maybe somewhere once after I decided to do it, I think I watched one Lily Tomlin one-woman show and was probably incredibly intimidated, and was like, I don't know if that's what I'm doing, but
I mean, it's kind of unfair to compare yourself to Lily
right.
Tomlin,
right,
and your first performance of a big thing,
right. But I was like, whatever I'm doing, I just know that I want to do it. And I'll probably just do it once in my life. And it'll be something that I can look back on and be like, look at that thing I did, once.
Well, I mean, with that, I guess it's time to look back on that thing you did, right?
Let's do it.
All right, let's take a look here. Let's go. We're going to do it. This is the Amateur Hour.
In the sound, say to someone. I went to Starbucks the other night, and there was this guy, and there was something interesting about him, and I drank. And you know on the cups there, they have these quotes? Well, I read mine. I used to feel so all alone in the city. All those gazillions of people and then me on the outside. Because how do you meet a new person? I was very stumped by this for many years, and then I realized you just say hi. They may ignore you, or you may marry them. And that possibility is worth that one word. Hi. So I thought, yeah, I should just say hi to that guy. I should just say hi. But he was looking at me. So I looked away. I was waiting for the right time. And so I go and sit down in one of those comfy chairs, and he walks by me once, and he walks by me again. Just kind of a fast walker. So then I see him going to the bathroom, and I'm thinking, all right, as soon as he comes out, I'm going to say hi. And here he comes. Couldn't say hi. I couldn't say hi. And so I give up, and I go back to reading my book. Then, after a while, he sits next to me in the other comfy chair. And so I'm thinking, I could still say hi. But he's studying or something, and I don't want to bother him. So I just go back to reading my book. If you open yourself to new experiences, hitting the road can happen every day of your life. Try starting up a conversation with that person you're sitting next to in the coffee shop. Try starting up a conversation with that person you're sitting next to in the coffee shop whom you normally wouldn't speak with. I wanted to say something, but I kept stopping to think. And then thinking would lead to more thinking, and then next thing I knew, I was playing out every possible scenario of what could happen if I say hi. And that's when it hit me. Hi is a very scary word to say. Hi could mean 1,000 things. I mean, hi could go anywhere. There's, hi, I want validation. There's, hi, I don't trust you. There's, hi, I want to sleep with you. There's, hi, I'm just saying hi because I have to. I mean, if your hi doesn't come out quite right, people could totally misunderstand you. So I didn't say hi. I didn't say anything. It's not like it would turn out to be the man I'm going to marry. Most likely, if I had said hi, it would have led into the typical, boring, mindless conversation of, so, where are you from? And what do you do? And are you married? And then I'm just going to end up having to explain myself. Oh, I didn't even introduce myself. Hi, I'm Ellie. And that was hi for thanks for coming. My friends, they call me Obvious Man, because they say that I like to state the obvious. Obvious man. Not a man. Anyway, Ellie is short for Elisa, and Elisa is short for I'm an Irish-looking Mexican. I know. I'm from Mexico. I know. I don't look Mexican. Every time I tell people I'm Mexican, they all feel the need to remind me. But you don't look Mexican. Yeah, I know. You mean New Mexico. No, I mean Mexico. speaking English at home? Oh, so you're not really Mexican. Yeah. My dad's Mexican. I was... Yeah, but you grew up here. No, I grew up in Mexico. I lived there till I was 16. My real name is Ellie Araiza Smith. Like I said, I'm half American. Okay, so I know I don't fit the profile of typical Mexican immigrant. For one thing, I'm legal. And for another, well, I look Irish. You have no idea how many people would kiss me on St. Patrick's Day, only to have me push them away and say, Oye, ¿qué pasa? Así se toca una mujer, hijo de la chingada. I mean, what do I have to do? Go around talking like this all the time? I have to have a Mexican accent so that you believe I'm Mexican? Not you. People. Anyway, I'm used to that now. When I first moved here, I used to wish I had an accent. I felt like an alien. No pun intended. An alien who landed on an entirely different planet, except I happen to look just like the natives and speak the native language, and so no one can tell I was foreign. And because I fit in so well, I was assumed to be stupid when I said things like reproducing instead of reproducing, or Utah instead of Utah. Or like the first time I touched snow, I stated very clearly in the native language, this is cold. I knew it would be. I just didn't know it would be that cold. I always thought that snow would be soft and fluffy, not cold and icy. And the first time I saw a snowflake, I see this tiny, itty-bitty little snowflake sitting on my shoulder. And so I say to my friends, oh my God, it is so cute. When do they get bigger? And how big do they get? And do they always come down with the snow or just sometimes? Yeah, see, at that point, I didn't even really know that snowflakes existed. The only other time I'd seen a snowflake was in cartoons, and they always had these big snowflakes falling from the sky along with chunks of snow. Little did I know that snowflakes are snow, like raindrops are rain. You know, now that I think of it, that's pretty much the story of my life. I always expect this big, soft, and fluffy snowflake to fall from the sky. And then I always get this tiny, itty-bitty, little cold, sharp chunk of snow that melts as soon as I touch it. See, that's why I didn't say hi. He would have turned out to be a psycho murderer. Pedophile. Gay. He wasn't going to turn out to be the man of my dreams. My friends say I have very high expectations. I try not to, because I know, the greater my expectations, the greater the chances of me being let down. And ever since my parents got divorced and I found out Santa Claus doesn't exist, I tried hard not to disappoint myself. In fact, I decided a long time ago, it is better to play it safe than sorry. It is better to stay on the shore than to get sucked in by a wave. It is better not to love than to love and lose. Which is probably why I'm still a virgin.
So this might be a good moment to
Yeah. Let's pause it here.
to stop. Well, fun fact about that moment. Right after I basically divulged that I was a virgin, because it was the first time that I had said that to a
Yeah.
huge audience. I
I
everything
hadn't-
after.
Speaking of which, I hadn't mentioned that this was actually, I guess, your first time performing it, right? This recording was your first performance?
Yeah, it just so happens that this was my first performance, and I have to thank David Oliveras and his husband Adam Kessoff, who they David directed a film that I was in, and they came to support me and offered to record this for me. And my friend Sean Riblet also helped. So they actually were so kind. They recorded the whole thing and edited it for me, so that I have this sort of treasure from my very first performance, which was really the largest one. It's when I had the biggest audience, and it was very much them experiencing it for the first time and me experiencing it for the first time. So yeah, right after I said that I was a virgin, I completely forgot the rest of the show.
You just blanked?
Yeah, so you'll see when we start up again, you'll see kind of there's a moment where I walk around, and I think I hit it pretty well. I think I hit it well.
Yep.
But I did forget everything. And
All right.
I also want to show you guys, I actually have the original postcard here, which is kind of fun.
That's pretty cool.
And another fun fact is everything about the coffee shop really did happen. I really did go to a Starbucks. I really did read that quote. In that moment, I saw this guy. I really did read the book, and it really said that I should say hi, and he really sat next to me. Like all of that, total, complete truth. So,
a good place to start. Let's get back into it.
All right.
I know it's not normal these days to be a virgin at 22, but it is better to play it safe than sorry. Anyway. Hi. I'm a 22-year-old Irish-looking Mexican virgin. What do you So my cherry hasn't been popped, my seal hasn't been broken, my Pandora box hasn't been unleashed. You know what being a virgin is. Obvious man, girl, whatever. It's always interesting to see how guys are going to react when I tell them I'm a virgin. There's the guys who are totally into it. I think it's great that you're still a virgin. I mean, there are too many sluts out there, Of course, they're usually the ones banging the sluts. And instead of being grateful, they look upon us virgins as toilets that have never been pooped in. That's awesome, dude! No one's ever taken a shit in that can. And then there's the guys who want to know why, so that they know where they stand. So, you know how when you were little, I mean, we all did when we were little, you think that you're going to wait to have sex, until you're married. And, most people get over that at some point, but not all people. And, that's cool, but that's not why you're still a virgin, is it? Actually, no. That's not why I'm still a virgin. I'm not saving myself for marriage. Not on purpose, anyway. I did grow up in a very conservative country, a very Catholic country, and I'm sure that had some kind of an effect on me, but no. That's not why I'm still a virgin. I am not living by anybody else's rules. Thank you very much. Much less my parents' rules. They're always the next ones to blame. No, it's not because of my parents. They didn't tell me I'd grow hair on my hands if I masturbated. They didn't tell me I'd go to hell if I had sex before marriage. In fact, quite the opposite. I remember asking my mom what sex felt like, and she said, "Oh, it feels really good." I was 5.
Is that also true? Is that a true story?
That's true. Yeah.
That I thought it was a good idea to wait till I have sex till I was married. And she said, "Actually, honey, sex is very important. You should have sex before you get married." And then my dad gave us this book called, Erotic Youth or something, just to make sure that we knew it was perfectly normal to have erotic thoughts and feel horny and all that stuff. I love that one. When I tell people I'm a virgin and I get but don't you ever get horny? What kind of question is that? That's like asking an anorexic girl if she ever gets hungry. Yeah, she just doesn't eat. I'm willing to consider the possibility that my horniness is different than the horniness of a person who's had sex. I mean, if you've tasted creme brulee, and if you haven't tasted creme brulee, you're probably not going to crave it. But that doesn't mean you don't crave something sweet. So yeah, I get horny. I just don't have sex. It's kind of like feeling the urge to fart, but holding it in. Holding it in doesn't mean you didn't feel the urge. Okay, go back to the creme brulee. Even if you have had creme brulee and you're craving it, doesn't mean you have to have it. Sometimes it's good enough to satisfy your cravings. If you satisfy your cravings all the time, pretty soon you find that you have none, because there's nothing left to want or appreciate. It's called delayed gratification, people. I'm sorry for getting defensive. I get everything from what's wrong with you to are you asexual to did something happen when you were little? No, there's nothing wrong with me. I'm not asexual, and I did not get molested by my stepdad. I don't have a stepdad. I didn't get molested by anybody else either. I mean, look, some people have even resorted to asking me if I'm gay. Why, that would explain it. I'm not sure. Although, I will admit I like going to gay clubs. Mostly because you can dance sexy, and the chances of a guy sticking his crotch in your ass are much lower. I mean, just think what it was like to be a poor, innocent Mexican girl on the homecoming dance floor. It was not amusing.
This also feels like lived experience.
That was also true, yeah. When I moved to the
That's why I'm
States,
still a
homecoming.
virgin.
Weird.
I've always had this sense of innocence that I can't seem to get past. I mean, my friends sit around talking about hairless Brazilian beavers. And all I can think is, are beavers in Brazil really hairless? I mean, I've heard of hairless cats. I've heard of hairless Mexican Chihuahua dogs. But hairless beavers.
Also true story.
I wouldn't think much of being a virgin if I didn't notice that most people just get it over with at some point. It's like, I've just been going about my business, living my life, and then next thing I know, everybody's doing something I've never done before. And they're all looking at me why I'm not following the crowd or joining in, for crying out loud. And some people treat me like I have an illness. I was born like this. And being a virgin at 22 is actually kind of cool when you think about it. Because I have something to look forward to. Something potentially really amazing. It's almost as if, imagine if you'd been fed through tubes your whole life. And you've never experienced the joy of eating, right? Of actually putting food in your mouth. And all you hear about is how good this tastes, and how good that tastes. And if you try it this way or that way, it's great. But you know that someday you're going to get to find out what everybody's talking about. You're going to get to experience the tasting, the chewing, the sucking, the nibbling, the swallowing, the after feeling. Just imagine if you had that to look forward to. It's kind of what I have. Besides, I don't reach my peak until I'm in my 30s.
That's true, too.
That makes me
I know that now.
If I never have sex, I don't even know how bad that would be. Because I don't know how good it feels. mean, they were going at it. Slowly, but surely. And you should have seen the one on top. I mean, I could see the joy and the excitement in its face. And I know you wouldn't think you could see any kind of expression on a turtle's face, but I saw it. I mean, that little guy was having a very pleasurable experience, and just watching the way that it opened and closed its mouth, slowly and passionately. It made me really want to try it. I mean, if a turtle can have sex, you'd think I could. I'm not that different from a turtle. I also have a hard shell. I always feel like I'm not getting anywhere. I'm a slow learner. I don't know. I mean, if I wanted to, I could find somebody to have sex with. It'd probably be too easy. I don't want to do it just to do it. Besides, I've never had a boyfriend. I mean, I had a couple in kindergarten. But, you know, since then, I haven't had a full-on, real, committed relationship with anyone. I'm a 22-year-old Irish-looking Mexican virgin who's never had a boyfriend. My mom thinks I haven't had a boyfriend because I haven't wanted one. She says if you wanted one, you would have had him a long time ago. But I've wanted one. It's just that you have to consider, the first time I ever really wanted a boyfriend, I was 16, and I moved here when I was 16. And I jumped into an American high school with American boys who quite frankly at that point were like strange creatures who said the word dude way too much. Not to mention, I was involved with schoolwork and trying to adapt to a whole new world. And so I made it easy on myself. I quickly became familiar with the word stag and went stag to all the school dances, except prom. My friend got me a blind date with a sophomore who pretty much disappeared when he realized we weren't sneaking in any alcohol. And then by the time I graduated from high school, I came out here to LA to pursue acting, and who was I going to meet? Orlando Bloom. Most kids my age were at college, and I was here trying to figure out who I am and what I want, and so I've been busy. I mean...
Do you remember this phone ringing? Do you remember this phone ringing when you did the first show?
You know, I don't. It didn't disrupt me, like, you know, thankfully. Okay. What is fun every time I watch the show, I hear some of my friends' laughs that are recognizable, and I know exactly who it is, you know, and that's always fun to listen to.
So great that specific friend laugh.
Yeah, it's great. It's still comforting to this day. You know, it was comforting in that moment, and it's comforting to this day. Yeah. And I really did see the turtles as well. Actually, I just remembered as we were watching this that I actually wrote that monologue about the turtles before I wrote the show. I think I had an audition. I had to do a monologue for an audition. I just decided to write it, and I did. It was a true story that I went to the zoo and I literally watched these two turtles, and it was in awe. It's fascinating. If you've never seen two turtles have sex, Google it. It's really fascinating.
But wait till the show's over, please. Google it in like 30 minutes.
Later. Yeah. Tonight before you go to bed. Exactly.
That's so, you know. Yeah. It's so cool that was kind of like the seed. Is that kind of the seed that the rest of the show got built around? Because I mean, it's the namesake of the show and everything too. Like,
right. You know, I think
it kind of start with that?
Well, it's funny because the monologue actually goes into, you know, I tell the story about watching the turtles have sex, and then I actually go into saying, you know, I wonder, you know, they say that when you have sex, there's this moment when you're no longer thinking about what you look like or what people think about you. There's this moment where you lose yourself, and it's all about kind of wondering, like, maybe if when I have that moment, then I'll feel free. So that's kind of where that went. But then when I started writing this, which is really more prompted from that moment when I tried so hard to say hi to this guy, right? For I mean, what felt like hours. I'm sure it was only 30 minutes, but I couldn't not utter that one word. And I went home and I told my roommates the whole story, and it was the longest story. And they were like, "Okay, so what happened?" And I was like, "Nothing happened. I couldn't say hi." And then eventually, I just started writing it, and it just kind of fit together because I felt
Yeah.
like I've
Found a little
always been a
home.
late bloomer. Yeah, and
Yeah.
I just felt like I related to that slow sort of path that the turtle takes. And of course, as you can see, I'm wearing this green sweater, which was no
Hmm.
coincidence. It was one of my favorite sweaters, and it just so happened I was like, well, this is perfect because it looks like I'm wearing a shell,
Little
which is
turtley.
exactly what
Yeah.
I was doing in real
Especially
life.
because it's a hoodie too. Like you could really.
Exactly, it's like comforting.
Yeah.
Totally, yeah,
That's so cool.
yeah,
One other question here. Let's see.
yeah.
We had how did you start going about writing this? That got answered. Somebody'd like to know what you're up to now, but we'll get to that a little later.
Right, right.
How did you come to a 22-year-old Irish-looking Mexican virgin as your descriptor?
Right. I think it was one of those things that just happened while I was writing it because I always get even when I moved here, my mom's American, so she taught me English. So I moved to this American high school when I was 16 years old, and nobody knew that I was foreign. I had this fantasy idea that it was going to be like the American movies where the new girl shows up at school and everyone's like, "Who's that?" And everyone's like, "I want to know her." And I was like
Right.
so excited, and I showed up at this school with like 1,200 people and literally became invisible instantly. And then the fact that I was white, didn't and I didn't have an accent, then nobody knew that I was in culture shock. I was in complete culture shock. But so it was like a weird, um thing. And so I had to sort of acknowledge what it's like to be this white Mexican that speaks almost perfect English. And how it just feels, it always felt like I had to explain myself to people, especially when I didn't know what a s'more was. Like I remember being with a
Right.
bunch of kids and they're all like, "Oh, s'mores this, and s'mores that." I was like, "What's a s'more?" Like I have no idea what you guys are talking
They
about.
just thought you were up to speed.
Exactly.
Like,
And
yeah.
that still happens to me. "Oh, is that my cousin? Oh, hola estrella." That's exciting. My
What's that
cousin's here.
question? What's that comment say there?
Oh, she said, I had to
There's
I
two
had to
comments there.
download the app to see this. What a great monologue.
It is. It's great.
Yeah.
Let's get back into it. We'll
All right,
grab
let's do
a little
it.
bit left.
Sounds good.
I've been really busy. And now, it's hard. I mean, I speak English pretty good, but dating is a whole other language. I mean, my friends are constantly having to give me direction. Ellie, that guy was hitting on you. Huh? Oh, no, he was just asking me why I'm so flexible. Oh. Right. And I'm not very good at flirting. The last thing I said to a cute guy at a bar was, "Peace out." Apparently that's not as cool as I thought it was. And I heard that the best way to let a guy know you're interested is to maintain eye contact for 4 seconds. 4 seconds. Do you know how long 4 seconds is? It's a long time. Lucky for me, it's not that often that I meet somebody I'm really interested in. One of my friends says that I'm just too picky. She says I'm like the female version of Seinfeld. I'll give myself any excuse not to date someone. That's not exactly true. I try to meet guys at bars or clubs or whatever, and I find that most of the time, the beauty in people is easy to see. The ugly is just more relevant. And my friends try to encourage me and load me up with dating advice like don't wear black with brown, try to be normal, and just make sure you don't seem like you're high maintenance. High maintenance? What am I, a car? Come on, Ellie. What do you have to lose? Duh. They just don't understand. Do you know how hard it is to date when you're a virgin in LA? A virgin is a lot for a guy to handle. I mean, the fact that I'm a virgin at 22 tells a guy that if I've held on to it for this long, he would probably actually have to get to know me before having sex. I mean, he might possibly have to love me before having sex. Imagine that.
Ooh, mood shift.
Investing yourself in someone
Yeah.
without any guarantee that you'll love them, that they'll ever love you, or that you'll ever have sex. What a concept. I just have to accept that I'm the kind of girl you bring home to meet your mom, and no one wants a girl like that until they're done screwing around. It's like my friend Alexa always says. You know, some people find themselves by going through several relationships, and some people find themselves alone. Besides, why should I stick my neck out when I can sit back and learn from other people's mistakes? I mean, thanks to my friends, I know how to check for signs of narcissism, paranoid schizophrenia, alcoholic behavior, and bipolar disorder.
Those are good friends. That's very important.
I can play it safe, and no one can ever break my heart. My friend Anna, she's a psychotherapist. She thinks I have a fear of intimacy. That's ridiculous. You know, these days people just want to constantly diagnose you with issues when you don't happen to do things the way everybody else does. So what if most of the times I've kissed a guy, one or both of us was from out of town? That doesn't mean I didn't want to get close to them. Our circumstances just didn't allow it. One of my friends thinks I just haven't found the right guy. She makes lists of everything she wants in a guy. I want a guy who's smart and who knows what he wants out of life, who isn't afraid to be himself, who's tall, rich, funny, sexy, good-looking, charming, warm, sweet, athletic, romantic, loving, etc., 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 etc. Talk about high expectations.
That's a tough one to pull off on the first try.
That's just it. Everybody's looking for the best product on the market, and I've just never known how to sell myself. I don't know how to bring out my best features and list what I have to offer. I mean, God forbid you tell the truth. I don't think people really want to hear the truth. Most people want something on the surface. Most people want someone that's enough to distract them from themselves, that won't force them to give too much, because you should only give when you know you're getting something back.
Wow.
Get a return on your investment or pull out. See,
Are you guys hearing this?
I didn't even know
I
what
thought,
pulling out was.
we'll point a
Honestly, I didn't know. I have no
it's
idea.
unexpected.
That was not on
Not
purpose.
dependent on a checklist, not scheduled in, not pre-screened. It just happens. Who has time to let things happen, right? Besides, I don't mind being alone. I find that most of the time, I don't really need a boyfriend. I don't mind going to the movies by myself or out to eat. What does get annoying is when I see couples. Couples everywhere, walking around with their arms around each other. The kind of couple that hold hands as if the world would end if they let go of each other. The kind of couple that just blend into each other. If you're talking to one of them, you're automatically talking to both of them. It's ridiculous. You know what? I pity them. Pity them because they're all under the illusion that they're not alone. They haven't gotten past the 3-month mark yet, so they don't realize that they're going to end up hating each other. Or they're past the 3-month mark and everything is still fine, which means one or both of them is not being honest. Or they're married. No, if they were married, they wouldn't be hugging or holding hands. The only memory I have of my parents being affectionate was one time when I saw my dad kiss my mom when she was washing the dishes, and I was so shocked by it that all I could think is, why is he kissing her? And I have
There's
one
a couple
photo
of fun
them
things I
holding
can
hands.
tell you.
No, let's take a break here.
But yeah, let's take a little break.
That's a great still frame. Perfect. Planned it perfectly.
Oh my gosh. So one is, I talk about how I only had long distance relationships.
Mhm.
true story. My first kiss was with a guy I met on ICQ. I don't know if anybody remembers ICQ.
Hey,
remember
ICQ,
ICQ?
that classic chat program.
The classic chat, and I wasn't even allowed to chat online. I had to do it when my mom left the house, and I would it took
100%.
like 5 minutes to connect to the internet back then. It was like, but eventually I met this guy, and I talked to him for like a year or two, and then when I moved to Chicago, he came out to meet me, and I had my first kiss when I was 16. If you don't count the one I had when I was like 4 years old in kindergarten with my very, very first boyfriend, but I feel like those don't count. So that was true. I really did only date guys who were like, it was going to be an easy escape for me or for them.
Like they're just already headed out of town, so
exactly. And
it's
it
clean.
It wasn't on purpose. It it was unconscious. It was like an unconscious, fear of intimacy.
Yep.
And the funny thing too with the 4-second rule, it was, there's a funny story with that because I tried to apply the 4-second rule of, what you're supposed to do is when you see a cute guy, you get eye contact with him, and you have to count in your head 4 seconds because it takes them that long to realize that you really are looking at them, right? And then they're supposed to come up to you because, everybody fears rejection.
Because you're looking at them.
Guys, especially if they're going to hit on a woman, it's like the biggest fear. So as a woman, when you think a guy's cute, you want to give him that confidence, right? And the truth is, I couldn't do it. Like I tried it a few times over the years, and it was like it is the longest 4 seconds of your life. But
that's a fascinating way to approach the idea of courtship. That it's like you need to make them comfortable from the jump. Like they're not going to have confidence. You got to make sure that you give it to them. Right, and
at least make it really obvious that you're like you think they're cute. Like make that really obvious, so that then if they're interested, maybe they'll have the guts to walk up to you. But funny enough, that's how I met my boyfriend, my current boyfriend. Now we've been together like a year and a half. I actually decided to do it, and I was gonna try it with 3 different guys at this party I was at, but I couldn't get the other 2 guys to look at me. But my boyfriend looked at me. And wasn't my boyfriend at the time, but I caught his eye and I stared at him, smiled, and I only got to 3, and I was like, I can't anymore. I looked away.
You were literally counting to 4 in your head, and before 4 you looked away.
I was like 1, 2, 3. I can't do it no longer. It's too long. But
that's pretty long.
He did obviously find a way to talk to me, and it all worked out. I did actually get the 4-second rule out of a magazine.
Whoa!
Who's Prolimart? You have to reveal your identity. I feel like I know who you are.
Dating in the States sounds so hard. That's a great comment too. Well, especially nowadays.
Oh my God, it was Oh yeah, and in Los Angeles, I think is a particularly difficult city to date in.
Yeah, LA's not great for anyone's self-confidence.
For anyone, no.
I don't think it's that.
And I will tell you, because people are asking about a sequel. Well, one is
people are demanding a sequel.
I know, right? I am actually writing what could be a book, or I'm not sure if it's going to be a book or possibly like a podcast type thing. But after I did the show, a lot of people asked me, what happened after, and I did actually start writing a second and third sort of piece to this, like an act 2 and act 3, and. But one of the things that happened after this is I did face my fear of saying hi. I made myself what I realized was the regret of not saying hi to that guy stuck with me so much that I was like, I never want to feel that way again. So I would rather walk up to every single guy that I am even remotely interested in and be rejected than have to feel that regret again. So, I became known within my friends as being fearless. I didn't feel fearless at all. It was always horrible, but I would just make myself do it and just walk up to, and I'll tell you, most of the time, nothing that interesting happened. They were kind of nice but sometimes they were jerks and I got full on rejected, and sometimes it led to a date, but I did face my fear of saying hi. So that's the good news.
Here's a big question here. How long after the show until you had a long-term, non-long distance relationship?
That's a very good question. So I was 22 when I did the show, and
Mhm.
my first real relationship, I was 23, about a year later, about a year after the show.
Yeah.
And I was only an 11-month relationship, but it was when I was 24 years old, and I made him watch the show. um, and then honestly, I was single from like 25 to 30.
Mhm.
And then
Killing it.
yeah, I
Stag, rocking
was,
it stag
oof.
style.
Oh yeah, I didn't want to be single. I was
Mhm.
desperate to find the true love of my life, but that exactly is the reason I stayed single.
Mhm.
Because that was way too
Definitely.
much pressure. Um,
Yeah.
which I learned
Yeah.
after doing that to myself for a long time. Um, yeah, and then, but I mean, I have been single most of my life. I write a blog now, and I have a blog on all the struggles that I had dating and with relationships. And I had to do a lot of digging to sort of figure out why I felt like I had this block. Um, and that's the name of what I'm working on now. It's called Lover's Block, because it felt like I could not
That's so cool. That's a
I
great
could
name.
not find like a stable, healthy relationship, like for the life of me, for many, many, many years.
Wow.
Yeah. So this was really just
Wow.
the beginning.
Kind
Really
of
is.
it's a real like statement of kind of principles that you stepped out into the world with. It seems like,
Totally. Yeah.
yeah, like one of the things that I was commenting earlier on, just kind of just how put together the whole pieces, and especially how kind of clear your perspective is.
Right.
Oh yeah, we got a comment. Feel free to put your blog link in the comments too.
Oh,
I'll put
yes.
something
I
up
will
for it
do
later.
that. Okay, I will.
Uh,
I'll make sure I'll give you
yeah,
the right link.
I just kind of was a little bit. Let me jump back on this question. I
Yeah,
had a few
yeah.
questions for you that I wrote down. Did you kind of like while for the? I mean, this show ended up running for about what, 7 months? Is that right? Just about.
Yeah, so basically I did it about once a month for 7
Mm-hmm.
months.
Okay.
And I mostly did it at IO West.
Mm-hmm.
And I was hired to do it once at a Valentine's Day event at Casa 101, who's run by Josefina Lopez, who is the writer of Real Women Have Curves. And
Oh.
yeah, and she actually is from my hometown in Mexico. So when I watched Real Women Have Curves, and I learned that she was from San Luis Potosí, I wrote her, and we ended up being in touch, and I invited her to see the show. And then when she saw it, she hired me. And I remember she paid me $50, because I think it was, you always remember those early days of acting income. It's like, I made $50 doing my one woman show. It was
Mm-hmm.
awesome. And so
Yep.
I performed the show there.
That's so cool.
That was cool. Yeah.
Awesome. Let's watch
Yeah.
the rest of it, and then we'll talk a little bit more
All
about it. We have
right.
about 5 minutes
Sounds
left.
good. Let's do it.
And I see what my friends go through. I mean, they jump into a relationship and fall head over heels and everything's wonderful, and then next thing they know, they don't know. They don't know who the person they fell for is, the person they fell for doesn't know them, and it was all a lie. It was a drug, and it was an illusion. And when the illusion was broken, when the drug wore off. And it's just another broken heart. Or another unused heart, I'm not sure. I mean, it's not just my parents and my friends. Look around. Everybody's getting divorced and remarried and divorced again, and every relationship is on and off. Promises don't mean much nowadays. I asked my friend Melina the other day if she believes in true love. She said she does. She thinks it's a choice. And that most people don't choose it anymore because it's not always convenient. There are times when a relationship is nice and easy, and then there are times when it would be nicer and easier to be alone. I asked my dad the other day why he thinks it didn't work out between him and my mom. And he said because neither one of them was willing to give of themselves fully. Can't even say hi. And then I asked him why him and my mom don't talk, and he said because it hurts too much to know that it could have worked. See, what if I'd said hi, and he said hi, and that was it? Saying hi means having to say goodbye, and I'm not good at saying goodbye. I remember this guy. He was my best friend at the time. He said, whoever wins your heart won the lottery. At the time I took it as one of the best compliments I'd ever gotten, but looking back, I think what he was saying is it's nearly impossible to win my heart. Now I'm not so sure it's such a good thing. So I never had the practice boyfriend when I was 14. I didn't want the get it over with kiss, although I settled for it. And although I too long for the illusion that I'm not alone, what I truly want is something real. Like the snowflake. The snowflake was real. It wasn't how I thought it would be. But it was real. It didn't just exist in cartoons. My grandmother always says that loving someone is easy. Not letting anything get in the way, that's hard. And my grandfather always says, you're ready when you realize you're never going to be ready. So what am I waiting for? I gotta start saying hi. I mean, if love really is the most important thing in life, I'd give up opportunities to love people all day long. That's it. You know, I should just start saying hi to people. I should just start saying hi to everyone I meet. And maybe that makes me crazy. Yeah? Well, you add that to the list and it kind of validates everything. I'm a crazy 22-year-old Irish-looking Mexican virgin who's never had a boyfriend. And there are some things I'm willing to accept. Like snowflakes are snow. Turtles have sex. And Santa Claus doesn't exist. But if there's one thing I'm never willing to give up on, is true love does exist. True love means you never give up. Ever.
All right.
Wow. Wow.
Oh my god. It's funny because one of the most cringe-worthy moments for me, for some reason, is always the end. Like right after he says hi, and I kind of break out of character a little, and I laugh.
Yeah.
That's when I get so embarrassed every time I watch that.
When he just kind of ends and you just start laughing and it's just done.
Yeah, I think I think it just proves that it's not a character at all. That it was just
Yeah,
me.
just
And
you.
that's like, I couldn't even fake that part.
A lot of love coming in the comments. People love this.
Thank you guys.
What was
Thank you so
what
much.
was the last time you watched this all the way through?
Actually, I think it was a few months ago because I had told my boyfriend about it and he hadn't seen it yet. So I told him I was finally ready to share it with him.
Have all your boyfriends seen it?
I think so. I've only had like 4. I think I've had 4 boyfriends.
Like boyfriends, yeah.
Yeah, one of them is forgettable. So sometimes I feel like it was 3.
Got him.
But yeah, yeah. But yeah, I think they've all seen it, and yeah, it's I mean, it's always vulnerable to share, but it's also kind of just the truth. So, you know, someone's asking to explain the snowflake analogy.
Yes. Yes,
Um,
please.
well, first of all, that was also a true story. I really did see a snowflake, and I did not know that they were real, and I remember being like, wow, I can't believe it. Like, it was the coolest tiny little thing, and I thought, well, I just immediately started asking questions like, when do they get bigger, and when like, how big do they get? Are they get like this big or this big? And my friends were just
Right.
laughing, and I was like, no, like,
Right.
really, I
Like a
want to know.
paper, like a paper snowflake, right?
Yeah, yeah, because
Sure.
that's what I'd seen in movies. They show them big, and in
Right.
cartoons, I was like, "Oh my god." So I was like, first of all, I didn't know they were
Yeah.
real. So now that I know they're
Yeah.
real, like, wow, when would I see a one that's like the normal size,
Size of a saucer or something.
Totally. And my mom always laughs because she says that I got mad at her. She says that I marched home from like high school one day, and I was mad at her because I was like, "Mom, you never told me that snowflakes were real." And she
Yeah.
was like, "I didn't think that I needed to tell you that." Um, but yeah, the analogy, I think honestly, it's one of those things when you it just came when I was writing it.
Yeah.
It wasn't planned at all. I told the snowflake story, and then when I was thinking about what it felt like, that visual just came to me of first of those high expectations, right? That I tend to have, and I think a lot of artists have this. We have this sort of idealistic view of the world, and sometimes our idealistic view it crashes against reality, over and over again, and it sort of feels like you have these great expectations of this big, beautiful, soft and fluffy snowflake, and then it turns into this itty bitty little cold, sharp chunk of snow, and it like literally disappears the moment that you touch it. Um,
Yeah.
and that's how it felt to me. I was just disappointed a lot by life, and I knew that it was kind of my expectations, but I also didn't know how to not have that kind of hope because it's what carried me
Yeah.
through. You know?
Right. Yeah, that
Yeah.
optimism, just sort of just kind of like, well, things probably are going to work out. Like, otherwise, what are we doing here? Um,
Exactly.
yeah.
Exactly. And I think a lot of
Sometimes it feels
people
like there's,
are.
yeah.
Yeah. Oh, I was just gonna say, I think a lot of people our generation, I think that I don't know if you relate to this, but we were kind of the first generation raised on movies, and
Yes. Big
and
stories, big
yeah,
narratives. Somebody's a
totally.
hero.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
you start to think that that's what life is. It should fit into this nice little 1.5 hour,
Sure.
high intensity, like
Yeah. Things get resolved.
emotional roller coaster,
Yeah.
and everything gets resolved, and everything
Yeah.
at the end is like perfectly
Hmm.
tied in a bow. And
Somebody's
funny
going to be in a
enough,
nice car driving off into the sunset.
exactly.
Yeah.
And it's funny how much that informs you, and you start to, when you're young, especially, you think that that's what reality is supposed to match up to, um, and then when it doesn't, it's like,
Jarring.
yeah, totally.
Definitely. Definitely.
So
I
that's where
mean,
that came
that's,
from.
yeah. I think kind of, we had some other questions here. I had a couple of questions here for you. I
Hmm.
think for, I think, one thing that really just stands out, and I mentioned at the beginning, is just the audacity of putting on a project like this. The kind of just like, you have to, there's a certain amount of belief in yourself, I think, that you have to have in order to start a project like this. But I think for a lot of people, it feels like maybe doing something like this would be unattainable, really difficult to imagine kind of creating something from yourself with
Right,
consultation with people that you respect and whose opinions you really value, but ultimately
right.
your story told by you the way that you want to do it. um I think I can you kind of comment on just sort of
Yeah.
how it really kind of transitioned from idea to reality and the challenges you might have faced as far as just confidence.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I will say first off, I've always struggled with believing in myself. It is, and I know for sure I struggled with it back then. And I don't consider myself a particularly confident person. But I would say that I felt like I had something to say, and I think that if anything gave me any confidence at all, it was seeing my friend, and I'll show you because her postcard was basically on the back of mine. Was seeing my friend Anna Kumar, who I have to thank because she really inspired me. The fact that she did it made me feel like I could do it. She made it look easy and she just did it. And I was like, I can do that. So it made it seem very attainable. So that's the first thing. And then second, I just felt like I had something to say, and I knew that I was going to just invite my friends, and I felt like that made me feel safe. And I honest to God thought I was just going to do it once, and I did not expect the reaction that I got at all. I remember kind of throughout the performance dealing with the shock of people laughing so much because I didn't think it was that funny. I knew that I was being obviously humorous about it. I knew that I was
Right.
being lighthearted about it, but I did not expect like full blown laughter as much as I got it. So I think I just came from that place of, um, isn't this is me, this is how my life is right now. It's strange, I still don't fully understand it, and I think I want to throw it up on stage to show it to you guys, and maybe, maybe that'll help me, understand it a little better. And a fun fact as well, I didn't have an ending to the show, and like I think I didn't figure it out till like 2 days before the actual performance. I had no idea how I was gonna end it. Like, it was literally, like, still in process. I just like,
So
this was
how
like,
long? How long have you been promoting it? Like, when did you announce that it was going to happen?
oh, man,
Was
I
this
don't
like,
remember
did
exactly.
people
I do
know it was coming for a
remember,
while?
I think so. They probably
Yeah.
knew for 3 to 4 weeks, I probably,
So
but
a
I
month
just
before a month
probably
before it was done, you were like, "Come see it," and then you
I think
finished it
I
2 days before you put it up. That's
exactly.
fantastic.
Yeah, I just was it felt so I felt no pressure. I didn't know what I was doing. I like I said, I'd never seen really a one woman show, so I wasn't
Right.
trying to be anything,
Nothing to compare
like
yourself to, right?
I had nothing to compare myself to other than my friend who had done a wonderful job of just being herself and speaking her truth, and I was like, I could do that. Um and so it's one of those, it felt very much like an accident. I don't know how else to say it, but that's
Wow.
what it felt like. I don't even remember like trying to write it, like I
Yeah.
just started writing it and started and workshopping it with my friend, um and it just sort of happened. And after I had such a positive response, and people really enjoyed it, and then I felt like, well, I guess maybe I should do it again, like, and so I did for a little while.
That kind of brings us
Um,
to this question here from I'm the Wonder Band. I know most of
yeah.
the stories were real experiences, but how much of the jokes did you have to work on in craft as opposed to things you actually said with your natural sense of humor? Because they were very funny jokes at I'm the Wonder
Right.
Band.
Well, I think that's one of the funny things. I wasn't trying to crack jokes, right? I wasn't.
Right.
um it comes off almost like stand-up comedy, but I wasn't
Yeah, it's very
trying to do that.
observational at times.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
definitely.
Um, so I really didn't craft any of the jokes on purpose.
Okay.
That's the honest answer to that. And I will tell you, I remember because that the first time I did the show was when I had the largest audience. And
Right.
the tough thing about a one woman show is you're one person promoting it all by yourself. And
Right.
so after the first show, when the majority of the people I knew came, the audiences were smaller and smaller, and it was hard because I had this videotape to watch, and I knew when people laughed. So then when I performed it again, it was like I wanted people to laugh in those same places. And as you've
Right.
done stand up, you know that
Right.
doesn't always happen. you
Right.
know
No, people are different. Turns out each room is full of
exactly,
different brains. Yeah.
totally, and a different audience will just kind of get on a different wavelength. And
Yeah.
so
But
I
nobody
just
likes your work better
struggled.
than your audience too. Like your
Exactly.
people are the people who are most gonna love your work. Pretty much
Exactly. And because
guaranteed.
they knew me, a lot of them, and they
Yeah.
knew that that was
Sure.
all true, you know
Right.
what I mean? They really, it was almost easier for them to just fall into it. Whereas when I had audiences that didn't know me at all, they maybe, didn't jump right on there with me right away. And I
Yeah.
didn't know how to, I'd never done anything like that before. So I didn't necessarily know how to get them there in the next performances. And they still went well, but I think
Yeah.
honestly, the first performance set the bar really high.
The bar a little high. The
Yeah.
expectations.
Oh yeah. Oh my God.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
And I kind of stumbled my way through it as I did it again and again. You know, it's like then I realized I didn't know what I was doing.
right. You do that first one, and everybody's like jumping out of their chairs, and you're like,
Like
nailed
beginner's luck, right?
it, crushed it. I'm always gonna. This is always gonna be good.
Totally. Totally. This is the rest of my life. I got this.
Don't even worry about it. But hey, that's the one you
Yeah.
filmed. That's the important thing. You filmed the
Thank
good
God.
one.
Thank
Imagine if
God.
you'd filmed one of these ones where you're like, and nobody's laughing.
Oh
Miserable.
man.
We wouldn't be
Oh,
here talking
yeah.
about it, that's for sure.
No, we definitely wouldn't. Oh God, no. I would burn those tapes.
From the other performances. So it was
Totally.
like one. It was kind of. It seems like it was bookended. Like you had the one great first performance, and then you
Yes.
had the great paid performance to kind of put a
Yes.
bow on it, and then in the middle,
Exactly.
some forgettable performances.
Some forgettable. Absolutely. Absolutely.
That's fine.
And,
You got the great tent poles there.
Exactly. That worked out.
All right. Well, I got another one for you.
Yeah.
So, all right, you're sitting here watching this. You're watching yourself, and also now we've added the element of people are watching you, watching yourself.
Right. Okay.
So kind of like just compare the artist / performer / just person that you are now with the young woman that we saw on stage back in 06.
Yes.
What's changed? What feels like it's maybe always been part of you?
Right.
You know, that kind of question.
That's a great question. I think the artist, you know, I was back then as a 22-year-old, and this is, I was very unconsciously motivated, and that's not a bad thing. I just would say that I felt this urge to perform. I felt this urge to speak. I was also in a band. I felt an urge to write songs, and it was almost like honestly the best analogy I can think of. It was almost like vomiting. It was like I had no choice but to just get it out of me, and it was I had no control. I just needed to get it out, and
Yeah.
now I think as a more mature artist, which is also not necessarily a better artist. I think
Just
I'm
more seasoned.
Just
Yeah.
more seasoned. I think I think I'm more consciously motivated now. Like I feel less sort of like I have to make art than I feel more like I want to make art. And again, I don't necessarily think that's a good thing. Like I kind of think of it a lot like, you know, a lot of bands, their first album is the best one.
Yeah.
I
It's the
feel
most
a
pure
lot like
love,
that.
right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's almost like it comes out of this genuine sort of unassuming place, and that's where I was when I was 22, and even the songs that I wrote back then, it's just unassuming. I just needed to express myself genuinely, like truthfully, needed to get these emotions out. I was a less happy person back then, and that's what sort of, I don't know, it sort of was the only thing that gave me a sense of connection. And I personally at one point decided that my happiness was more important to me than being impressive or than being an artist that people admired or something of the sort. And so I sort of went that direction and also decided I can still be creative and I can still be an artist, putting my happiness and my sort of mental, emotional health first. And I think that's kind of the difference, really. Between who I was then and who I am now, you know? Yeah.
That's a great commentary. I think that you really hit the nail on the head when you talk about first albums. I think
Yeah.
you know, and that's also what this whole show is about. That's what the Amateur Hour is about. Everybody is just kind of exploring those first forays into art when you're just kind of like that love at first sight with a new form. You know, that new relationship with a form of expression. You know, before you've really had your heart broken by the by expression.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yes. Because that's something that I think about. When I did it, I wasn't thinking at all about, I don't remember thinking about, am I gonna, you know, are people gonna like it, or am I gonna do a good job? Like all that sort of comes later. That sort of caution that like you said, you learn once you've sort of gotten burned. And then sometimes later in life, you become an artist that can be more cautious. And if anything, I do admire that about back then, about just doing it, you know? And even my friends now that are in their 20s, I love the sort of fearlessness, you know, that they have. And I sort of, you want to try to get that back as much as possible, you know?
I mean, that's
Yeah.
definitely true. You know, I've seen a lot of you know, the younger artists. Like, we do the film sprint film competitions, which are also hosted here on this Twitch channel. And
Yeah.
some of our youngest artists, they come in and they're the ones who are willing to just really put the pedal to the metal and just throw stuff out there. And meanwhile, the ones who know what everything's supposed to look like, you know, sometimes the focus is like, we got to make sure this looks nice and tidy, and that's how we show that we're good. And I think sometimes it's
Right.
just as important to show that you care, that you know, show your passion, and let it just kind of carry you
Yes.
into wild, rambunctious choices.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. And I
Yeah.
think there's something in, you know, I used to run this artist party called the Creative Fete with some friends of mine out here, and we used to do it every month, and then every other month we would bring people together, artists, and we would take turns performing on stage, and it was like a 10-minute limit. But one thing that we always brought back is talking about how, you know, it's art when you feel the urge to share it, and I think that's such an
Yes.
important element of art.
Yeah.
And I think that always has to be the important part. I think when you start to become motivated first by what's it going to look like, you know, or what are people going to think, you start to lose some of the, I just really want to share this with people. I just really want people to experience it no matter what their reaction is. Like, that's actually doesn't matter. All that matters is I have this thing and I just want to show it to you and
Here
share
it
it with you.
is. Here you
Yeah,
go. Totally.
exactly. Let the chips fall
Oh,
where they may.
absolutely.
Yeah.
I'll end with a few more things here. Comments from the chat here.
All
Uh,
right.
we got a question. Would you ever consider doing another one woman show?
Ooh, um, I would definitely consider it. I think it's funny because I look back on it as like, how did I ever do that? You know, why would you do that to yourself? Um, I think I would lean more towards doing something like a podcast type thing. I do a lot of
Mhm.
voiceover now. So
Oh, that's
doing
cool.
something of that sort where I can still do like a one woman show and do it in my voice. I would probably lean more towards that kind of storytelling.
Maybe an
Um,
animated one woman show.
yeah, ooh, I like that. That would be
There you
really
go.
cool.
Nice.
I gotta, yeah, I like that. Good idea. And
Dibs
I
on
did,
executive producer.
yeah,
Called it.
I love it. Yeah, and I did actually do stand-up comedy, which is the one thing I told myself that I would never do ever.
Wow.
I just thought it seemed like the hardest thing in the world.
It's really hard.
It's
It's probably the
incredibly,
hardest form, I would say. I
that's
think
what I
most
thought.
people, most performers would agree, I would say, that stand
Yeah.
up is probably the hardest art form. There's
Oh,
nothing.
absolutely.
It's just you
Oh,
and amplification technology, and that's it. That's all you get.
oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Oof,
It's extremely vulnerable. And I just told
incredibly
myself, like,
vulnerable.
that's the one, you know, every time you tell yourself I'm never gonna do that, you know what they say, right? Never say never. Yeah, I thought I would never do it, but then I really wanted a girlfriend of mine to do it. And when I was really drunk one night, I told her that I thought she would be such a good stand-up comic, and I believed in her so much that I would take a class with her just so that she would do it. And then she
Oh.
reminded me of that promise, and I was like, "But that doesn't count. I was drunk." And she was like, "What do you mean? You didn't stay true to your word?" I was like,
Oh,
"Damn."
got you.
So I did actually take the class with her, and
That's cool.
thankfully, it was a great class, and it wasn't a class where the teachers like gives any pressure to be funny. So it actually was similar to my
Mm.
show in the sense that he helped you find what was just naturally funny about you in your life. And so I did one stand-up performance, and that's probably the closest I'll come to doing a one-woman show again.
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah.
Man, that is really the toughest, but it does lead to
Oh,
another great piece of advice for any budding artists who may be watching. A great way to get into something is to take a class in it. If you're interested in
yes.
developing, you know, a new form of expression that fascinates you but feels alien, seek out mentorship, and all of a sudden, bing bong bing, everything becomes a little more accessible.
What do you know? Yeah.
Well, we're gonna finish up by showing a music video from your band. Very excited. Your band Pie. That's right. I got your music video for a reason from that song.
Yeah.
What a great first episode of Amateur Hour. Ellie, thank you so much for being an amazing first guest.
Oh, thank you.
Couldn't be happier.
And thank you for choosing the one woman show. I mean, I sent you like a few other little short, goofy things, you know, and I honestly, I thought the last thing you would choose is the one woman show. So I felt like it was so dated and long, but I'm really glad.
I mean, to be honest with you, my first instinct was not to pick it, but I came back and watched it and was transfixed, and here we are.
Oh, I love it.
Oh, delightful. Well, and thank you again for sharing it. Thanks for making it. Thank you for making that art for us all to enjoy. If you guys are watching there, thanks, Ellie. If you guys are watching here, I would appreciate a little follow here on the Twitch channel, because we're just super close to that 50 follower threshold that'll let me do even more cool stuff like the Amateur Hour and Film Sprint, Homebound Edition, and other cool, exciting rounds that are coming up. If you're interested in what Film Sprint is doing, go to filmsprint.com and join our mailing list. We got another filmmaking competition coming up in probably early July, and we're going to do something we've never done before. And that's all I'm going to say for now. It's a little tease if you're interested in that kind of stuff. We got a big horror themed competition in October, Fright Sprint. That's going to be great. Check that out as well. Mm-hmm.
That's exciting. Yeah, and if anyone wants to follow me, you can find me at Ellie Araiza pretty much on everything, and it's ELLIE. You can probably see it there, ARAIZA. But yeah, follow me. I'm around. Thank you for watching. Thanks for hanging in there.
All right, well, with that, let's take it to this music video.
All right.
A little bit of pie here at 9 o'clock. Well, it's going to be a beautiful sunny day today, highs in the mid-80s, and it should continue throughout the weekend. Might be time to get up, get out, and spend some time with the people you love the most. Your low tide will be 60 degrees. Carla?
This is the place. Let's do this. I have. Are we starting? I know I have too much hope. I know it rings and I still think that it's you. It's never true. And all I can say, things didn't happen my way. I am sorry that you failed. I wanted you to stay. Everything happens for a reason, they say. Give me a reason for this, and I will go back into a hole and try to forget that we met. I believe what I want to believe. I believed, well, I thought you'd want to be with me, silly me. And all I can say, I didn't think you'd run away. I was wrong, now you're gone, and I have to move on. Everything happens for a reason, they say. Give me a reason for this. Oh, 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 oh. That I will go back into a hole and try to forget that we met.
What is she doing
you see. Maybe I took it too far when I pictured you and me together and free. Now you're leaving and I'm grieving, and I just want to say everything happens for a reason, they say. Give me a reason for this, and I will go back into a home and try to forget that we met. I will try to forget, or I will try to forget, or I will try to forget that we met.
Oh, baby! It's in your hair!
Oh, my balls! Damn it!
Clear on 3101 to number 3. 7140, Roger. 7851, a family dispute. 4972 West 21st Street, number 3.
What are you in for?
Trespassing?